Welcome to the Wingmen Show. We are floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you two badass jet pilots, rumble. Welcome to the Wingman Show. We're floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you two badass jet pilots, rumble. Welcome to the Wingman Show. My name is Commander Drew Brown. My wingman, the guy who watches my six, my main man, Dr. Paul Thompson. What's up, Brother Paul?
Hello, Mr. Drew. Good to see you again. It's been a little bit of a break, but it's good to see you. We're gonna have a good show today.
Great show today. It's going to start off. I'm feeling great right here. And so, we start off with a little quote. How about this one? Don't let what you cannot do interfere with what you can. Once again, don't let what you cannot do interfere with what you can do. And you know who said that, Dr. P?
Who?
John Wooden, the famous UCLA basketball coach. He was a legend, actually. But I love that. All of us can do something, and we're sitting around thinking about what we can't do. Well, let's work on what we can do.
That's true.
All right, Dr. Paul, how about this? I want to start off with just giving you a little background on me. At 14 years old, I was actually the first exchange student class to Israel. From Brooklyn, New York, I went to Israel at 14 years old, actually a year after my bar mitzvah. And I stayed on a kibbutz, Kfar Blum, and I lived with an Israeli family. And it was the most incredible year of my life. I learned so much. I learned another language, Hebrew, which I love messing with people now because they have no idea that Hebrew is coming out of my mouth. But the Israelis took me in like family because, first of all, my skin color is not so weird over there to say I'm a Jew. That's number one. Original Jews look like me. Yes. So that was never an issue. But the love that they gave me was incredible. The one thing I learned about Israelis is that they're very strong and very hardworking, and they're very honorable people. And the reason I'm bringing all this is because of the horrific acts that just happened. And no matter when you listen to this podcast, if it's 10 years from now, this was something just horrific. And we don't talk about bad news here, so I'm going to try to bring just a little bit of light to this. The problem is I called my family in Israel, and they're scared. And to hear people scared for real is amazing. They don't know now if somebody will come into their kibbutz and cut their throat, and they're going to sleep in fear. Here's the other problem. There are Palestinians in Gaza who are wonderful people, go to work every day, have nothing to do with the terrorists, the Hamas, none of that. They just work and live and trying to make it like most of us are. And they're being killed also. And so what I wanted to say is that we as Americans, sometimes we need to look at how lucky we truly are that we don't have terror at our back door. And I just want to say a prayer to all the people in that region. And, every time we stop this broadcast, we always say we pray for peace. Well, right now, I pray for peace. Dr. Paul.
Yeah, I mean, that's more, I pray for peace. That's more relevant now than ever. We didn't just start saying it just to say it, because I think we really do. And I think most people do. The events for the last, few weeks are indescribable. The fact that you were over there, were you over there? You say you were over there for a full year?
A full year. There was always military operations around that area. I was in northern Israel, which was right by the Lebanese and Syrian border. And matter of fact, I'll put up a map of it so you can see exactly where I was in Israel.
Yeah, I mean, war is not good. Civil wars are not good. No war is good. With the attacks in Israel, I haven't, at least on the news, I haven't heard a lot about Ukraine lately. Has that stopped? Obviously not.
No, it's whatever the bigger war is, Dr. P. Whichever is the most murders and the most killing. That's why our show doesn't do that. We talk about good stuff because
Yeah.
bad stuff is easy to come by. And if it's worse, you get top billing.
Right. So
Well, I really just want to, both of us from the Wingman Show, we pray for peace in that region. Now, do you want to know where I just came back from, Dr. P?
where?
I came back from the St. Regis Hotel in Puerto Rico, which was $1,000 a night hotel. The reason that I went there, well, let me just first say that the reason that I had to pay, I paid $500 a night because I was in a wedding package. My niece, Kristen, married a wonderful, wonderful young man, Ola, and they got married in this fancy schmancy place. I know that I stayed at this hotel because I used the N-word. My N-word is never. And I know I said, I'll never pay $500 a night for a hotel. Well, once again, every time I say the N-word, I wind up doing it. So, but on the other hand, you pay for what you get. This was one of the most magnificent hotels I've ever been in. And I've been all over the world and I've stayed in a lot of luxury hotels. This one was just gorgeous. And the cool thing, Dr. Paul, is Ola is Nigerian, comes from Nigerian parents from Nigeria. Ola was born here. Oh, what wonderful people. But my niece, Kristen, and Ola actually had a Nigerian wedding party the day before their marriage. So we all sent away for Nigerian beautiful outfits. We actually sent away to Nigeria to have them made. It was just wonderful. And, you know, the name of our the show, this one, is How to Make It Rain Even in a Wedding Dress. Well, Nigerians, one of the things that they do during a wedding is they throw money at the bride and the groom. And maybe we'll have a little clip of showing that, but that's to give them blessings and, you know, making it rain. And they made it rain. But what a wonderful wedding. What a wonderful family I have. But woo, that hotel was popping, Dr. P.
Wow. $1,000 a night. I'm thinking $1,000 a stay would be a lot. Wow, that's impressive. But you hang around with some rich company. It's funny. It's funny how the mind is programmed, because as you're describing this, you know the picture I have in my mind?
Huh.
I've got Eddie Murphy as the Prince of Zamunda, and I see him dancing on the floor there. That's in my. It's not stereotype. It's just there in my head right now.
That's amazing. Yes, I could see that. And you know what I love? We're of the mindset. There's no black and white. There's ignorance and intelligence. What we are all Homo sapiens who have different cultures. And the more cultures you have within you, the more cultures you learn, the better off you are. And this was a culture that was introduced to us that I am so happy that it's part of my family. And I actually told my nephew now, Ola, I said, thank you for making us part of your family tree.
That's good. That's good. That's good.
Anyway, check out them badass jets we got. You got some Blue Angels. You want to talk about them? Because they are looking nice.
Yeah, that's I guess you can see they're in a dirty configuration with the gear down. I guess the flaps are down to some degree. I can't really see from my picture. And the hook is down in the landing configuration. And the Blues sometimes will do maneuver where they'll actually stay in that diamond, kind of a loose diamond formation, and do a loop. I do a full loop, the gear, and if everything hanging out, which is pretty impressive.
Yes, it is. And for people who don't know a lot about flying, when Dr. Paul said that they are dirty, it means they have their flaps out, their gear out,
Yes.
their hook out, all the things that make an airplane not want to fly. So when you're clean, you're clean as can be. You have nothing sticking out of the airplane, so you don't have drag, meaning it's not slowing you down. So to do a loop when you're dirty means you have to have a super powerful ass jet behind you, a jet engine that will allow you to do that. Don't you think, Paul?
Yeah. They call it the diamond dirty loop, I believe. Yeah, that's a lot of power because if you got everything hanging out, those are not aerodynamic structures hanging below the airplane. It's for landing.
And our wingmen, woo, we got a good wingmen, actually it's wingmen, just like our show's name. We have more than one wingman today. And just remember the name Pocahontas. Just remember that. Thank you, everybody out there, for listening on Apple Podcasts, watching us on YouTube. Please hit that subscribe button. Hit us up on Instagram and Facebook and any other social media platform you can. But subscribe to our show. We really appreciate it. And we also have a newsletter, and that newsletter is called The Gouge. And The Gouge, Dr. Paul and I are Navy guys, and the gouge in the Navy is like insider information. Dr. P always wants to say legal, but it's insider information that you might not get other places. So our newsletter is The Gouge. Last week, the newsletter actually talked about how to be your authentic self and stop being different people for different people. Actually start learning how to love yourself and be your own authentic self and not be a people pleaser. So that newsletter is popping. All right, Dr. Paul, this is a good one. You sent me this article. Military drones have been around for a while, but they are doing something new. They're now doing AI, artificial intelligence, military jets. You know, these military jets can cost 70, 80, 90, $100 million. Well, they're making these AI drones so much cheaper, 3 million, 5 million, maybe 10 million, a lot cheaper than those military airplanes. And the idea, which kind of scared me, is, you know, China and all our adversaries, Russia, they have anti-aircraft missiles. In other words, when you see airplanes go up, the radar catches them and they start shooting missiles to kill the planes, knock them out of the sky. What happens when you have 1,000 of them? What happens when you have 1,000 drones coming in? No matter how good your air defense is, it won't be able to get all of them. Kind of like that Iron Dome in Israel. Whenever people shoot rockets into Israel, they have a system where they blow the rockets up in midair. Some of them get through when they fire too many of them. But this AI drone, I'm going to ask you this question, Dr. Paul. What we did, our career being Navy jet pilots, which is the top of the heap, but are pilots going to become extinct? Because if AI can fly better than a human, why wouldn't you want an AI pilot? And God forbid, during times of conflict, why would you put a life out there if you didn't need to? Dr. Paul, I can't wait to hear what you got to say about this.
Yeah, well, that's believe it or not, drones have been around for a long time. Right now, they've got something called the XQ-58 Valkyrie. That's I guess we can show a picture of that. That's been around since about 2019, and it's basically a pilotless airplane that's designed to carry a payload along with other aircraft. And I think the way the system's supposed to work is these drones will fly. They may fly by themselves or fly in a formation with a human operator in another airplane, and to the point where, you know, the pilot will be able to deploy multiple drones. And I guess you can control it from your F-22 or your F-35, but they'll have robots, silent partners. And I think what they're kind of wrestling with is, when does the drone get the order to strike, to kill? And right now, it's supposed to come from a human operator. And we're actually worried about the drones getting too smart and deciding to take over things on their own. Yeah, it's called the XQ-58 Valkyrie. Now, that's not to be confused with something we talked about a long time ago. There was an XB-70 Valkyrie. That's the one that crashed. They made two of them. And that was going to be like, it was like a huge bomber that never came to fruition. But they called this the Valkyrie. It's kind of unusual for them to use the same name twice. What's the Valkyrie? Valkyrie is, I think those are like handmaidens that take care of slain warriors. It's out of Norse mythology or whatever, but that's not relevant. But did you know that there were drones used around World War II?
No.
Actually, before. Actually, the first kind of drone airplane was actually radio controlled by the British around 1917. I think it was like a monoplane or something like that. Yeah. And even after the atomic tests in Bikini Atoll in the Pacific, when they, were testing nuclear weapons, they actually had some B-17s fly through to measure the radiation of the ash cloud. And they were pilotless too. I just found this out recently.
That's
I had
amazing.
no idea. This is 1945. I will show a picture of one of the B-17s just measuring stuff. So wow. But anyway, yeah, I mean the drones are coming and they're cheap. Some can be as inexpensive as $1 million. A long time ago, I was flying A7 and it was experimental. But I became a drone one time, and the E2 took control of my airplane and took me like to a target area. Got me within a couple hundred yards. He was 400 miles away. This is more than 4 decades ago, and they're just kind of playing with this thing. It's like, wow.
I remember that. I remember that very well. Yeah. And do you remember, we were the first ones to really start approaching the aircraft carrier with automatic landing. One of them almost killed me, like when I tested it out, because it was a perfect landing all the way until almost touchdown. But I was very left of course, and I would have killed all the LSOs on the platform if they didn't wave me off. But it was such a smooth approach that you almost didn't even see it. So it was scary. Another thing, though, you said was really interesting. They usually don't use names again of something that failed, which is really interesting, really interesting. But this AI thing, we're going to have artificial intelligence possibly carrying nuclear weapons. And then what happens with all these crazy hackers if they could ever, God forbid, hack into a system like that? So it's getting a little crazy. How about this? How about, Dr. Paul, we talk about peace? How about nobody kill anybody anymore? Which I have to say, I can't believe that we're still going through this. It's almost like biblical times. How about people just chill out and use what the Wingmen show says? The answer to world peace is just be nice. You don't have to agree. You don't have to think that they're right or wrong. Just be nice and respectful to each other.
Right. Most people are peaceful, actually. It seems like there's not crazies around. Otherwise, you'd never make it to and from the store ever, or in and out of your car ever. But it just takes, one or more knuckleheads to make things miserable for everyone.
Yeah, well, once again, technology can either help us or hurt us. And it's up to us, the educated people of this planet, to make sure technology does us good. All right, how about this, Dr. P? Going to college, that's my number one thing of all time. I believe that's the answer, and that it shouldn't be optional for kids, because it wasn't optional for me, you, or my children, or your children. So I know that college works. But how about this? In 2011, San Francisco actually started this little program where they put $50 in every kindergartner's name in a savings account. So every kid in the kindergarten had, in 2011, got a $50 start off. And then the families were able to add to that, add to that, add to that. And this year, they're going to start going to college. Here's the thing. College is now, the state ones are around 11 grand a year. The private ones are around 40 grand. If you put in books and room and board, it's like 70,000 a year. So it costs a lot of money to go to college. If you don't have a lot of money and you have good grades, you are very well to get some money to go to college. But what I like is that you're starting a savings plan early in life. And I remember when my grandmother, Bubba, gave me, even though we were Jewish, we opened up a Christmas account, Dr. Paul, at Lincoln Savings Bank. And I'll never forget my little booklet with $5. And we used to go once a month and put in $5. And it actually changed the way I thought about money. This was something that we were saving. And even when we got like 10 cents interest or $1 interest on our savings, it was amazing. They were giving us money for keeping money there. But they said children who save for colleges, they are 3 times more likely to go and 4 times more likely to graduate. Last thing about this before I hear you, Dr. P, is that now California is going to try to do the same thing but put 500 in every kid, every low income kid in the state, give them $500 to start off with in first grade. So that can grow into whatever. But what a great program. I like that it is self-sufficient. In other words, kids now are taking hold of their own financial responsibility, and it gives them something to work for, Dr. P.
Yeah, I can see where it helps them. It sets a goal, even though they're young. They see a goal has been set for them, and they kind of work towards the goal because it's there and it's not something they have to imagine. You know, if you saved, if you got a young person, you talk about how much things cost. They cost a tremendous amount, and $500 is really good. But if they were to take if you're able to take $500 a month, invest it at 6%, they're about 5 or 6% over about 18 years. You'd have like about 175 grand. If you could only do 250 a month OET, it'd be almost 100 grand thereabouts. You can play with the numbers here and there. It's quite a bit. And the big thing is the time value of money. It's that time element. It's that 18 years as opposed to 18 months. It makes a big difference. That's one thing we can't get back. We can't get our time back. I wish I could get some days, months, and years back. Yeah, you can't. I don't know how to do that yet, except in the science fiction movie.
I don't know. Technology might come up with something, Paul.
It could be, something from Star Trek.
That's
but
right.
It's great they're able to save all that.
Well, everybody's looking for the fountain of youth. And, just a little side note, my son, Dr. Drew, who you know very well, he's starting to do cold dip. And he's saying that it is changing his life. In other words, he bought this big tub and it's filled with water, but he has a very big motor on it. So it makes the water like 37, 38, 39 degrees. And he gets in it for 5 minutes a day, and he says it's changed his life. Okay.
Does he put ice in it?
Well, actually, he does put ice in it, my son, because he's a Drew. He's trying to make it even colder.
Okay.
He's trying to make it even colder. But that brings us to this very important point. This is a Wingmen PSA from the 11 facts in life. From fact number 3, make a negative a positive and learn from the past. Make a negative a positive and learn from the past. I'll give you a quick example. When I got in the Navy, everybody has a call sign, as everybody knows from Top Gun. Anyway, the guys in my class, obviously I was the only black one, so they said, hey, you think you're tall, dark, and handsome? Well, you're not Clark Gable, which was a famous movie star. You're not Clark Gable, you're Dark Gable. When I heard that, I said, that is the coolest damn name I've ever heard in my life. I took a negative and I made it a positive. It was so cool that they didn't want to actually start calling me that, trying to say it was too many syllables. But I took a negative and I made it a positive. Dr. Paul, tell me something about that.
Yeah, well, that when you made it a pod, that screwed it up. That defeated the purpose. The purpose is to dog you out. You made it something cool, something good. I saw you, do it on TV a number of times years ago. So you made it something you're famous for. Well, that's good. That's good for you. And those guys who said they're probably laughing now.
Yes, they probably
they're watching him now. So, oh God, he's still talking about it. They know who you are.
That they do. Believe me, they do. Well, our website, wingmanshow.com. Wingmanshow.com. We have that newsletter that you can get, but we also have something called the Frequent Flow Line. And it's amazing the letter I got this week. But the Frequent Flow Line, just write us at wingmanshow.com. You can actually send us a question and we'll answer it. How about this? There's a deep question here, Dr. Paul. Matter of fact, it's from Memphis, Tennessee, a 49-year-old man. He wants us to give him some advice on what to do about worrying about his family in Israel. He has family in Israel. He's not able to get in contact with them much, and he's worrying himself sick. My advice to you is, first of all, worrying doesn't ever do anything. You can physically do something by praying, I know that, but worrying doesn't do anything but hurt yourself. What you can do is that praying, but try to get in communication with them and keep yourself abreast of all the news and keep a positive attitude about it. Don't be negative because that brings bad stuff. Be positive. And I pray, and I'm sure everything will be okay for your family. Dr. Paul, you have some advice.
Yeah, I thought, when you say how to stop worrying about your family in Israel, I'm thinking, I don't know how you can, I don't know how you can stop worrying. Maybe a way to rephrase the question is how to stop worrying excessively. I don't know when you're doing it a little too much. Of course, you're thinking about them. You can't stop thinking about them. But how to know when you're just going a little bit too overboard to the point where you may be making yourself sick. And that's something to do. Maybe at times to unplug from the TV and the media and all that stuff for periods of time. I say, take a news fast.
Heck yeah.
Just a little periodically, a little bit, so that you keep your own sense of self, so that you don't make yourself sick. And ironically, you could make yourself sick and terminally ill, whereas if your folks in Israel might be doing just fine. Wouldn't it be a strange twist of fate if you're the one that really suffers, to the extreme when they don't, or at least don't suffer as much as you think in your mind. So kind of recognize when you're getting, kind of going off the rails, and kind of try to settle yourself down and not just have your imagination run wild and take total control of your sense of self and your body.
That's very good, Dr. Paul. Thank you. All right, Dr. Paul, let's play a little game. Okay. How about the happiest workers in the U.S.? Because think about it. You and I we retired from a job that we loved. So it wasn't much work involved. We had to work very hard to get there. But afterwards, our day-to-day working was fun. We flew all over the world in the highest tech airplanes you can. But what are the happiest jobs in America? I'm going to name some, and you try to see if you can get me the top ones. Here are the categories: construction, technology, finance, nonprofit, restaurants, food and beverage, travel and hospitality, education, and healthcare. So out of all of those, which would you think the happiest workers are in which field?
From what I've heard in the news, I'm going to guess technology.
Dr. Paul, you're so smart. That was number 2. Very good. Surprisingly, construction is the number 1 happiest career in America. Construction. And one of the reasons is, first of all, there's a lot of money in construction because of the infrastructure that's going on now and the building and what we just went with COVID. So people have jobs. But the other thing that makes a lot of sense is that they get to see their work. And that's very prideful. When you have pride in things that you do, and you can actually look at the work that you completed, that makes it good. And then you always work with a team. That means it's teamwork. But the happiest job in America is construction, then technology, then finance, nonprofit, then restaurants, food and beverage. Number 6 is travel and hospitality. 7 is education, and 8 is healthcare. And we know about that. There's a lot of healthcare problems in this country, but those are the happiest. Actually, it's 8, so it's not that bad. It's not 100, it's the 8th. But those are the happiest jobs in America. Dr. Paul, I have a wingman for you this week that's crazy. Remember I talked about Pocahontas? Well, this is Pocahontas, West Virginia. Pocahontas, West Virginia has a marching band. In Pocahontas, West Virginia, the Pocahontas High School band director quit, left, and they had no replacement. The principal told the band that they're going to have to find another class to work with, get another elective, unless they can figure out a way to do it. Well, I want to tell you about some wingmen. These 10 students actually got together and said, we're going to have a marching band. They got the teacher, counselor, to be their guide, but they set their own rules. I'm going to take a minute now and read you their names because that's how important they are. Haley Fitzgerald, Maya Johnson, Emmeline Hall, Miles Fitzgerald, Cadence Cutlip, Jaden Lane, Reggie Whiting, Eric Dibble, Olivia Hamilton, and Sabrina Lazornik. They got together as a group, and that means these students actually propelled themselves, taught themselves, and some of them actually didn't play the right instruments, so they had to learn different instruments to make the 10-piece marching band work. My favorite part of this whole Wingman story, Dr. Paul, is that they put up rules on the blackboard that everybody had to follow. And they only had 5 of them, and I'm going to read them to you. Rule 1, be ready to play with your instrument within 5 minutes of arriving at class. Rule 2, follow the director's lead. No complaining about which songs they play. Number 3, keep the band room clean. No sugary drinks which might hurt the instruments. Rule 4, take your instruments home on the weekends to practice. And rule number 5, only play your instrument. And what's good about these rules, these are the rules that they thought were important. Well, guess what? They played at every football game. They played at every dance that they had, and they fulfilled their own obligations as the Pocahontas Marching Band from Pocahontas, West Virginia. Dr. Paul, tell me about that.
I guess where there's a will, there's a way. I think in the state of West Virginia, I guess nationwide, there's a shortage of teachers for a lot of things. So one left and they got to shut the department down. I think I looked at some of the story. I think initially there were like 38 to 40 members in the band. And I guess 28 of them went and did something else. And the remaining 10 did what you're just talking about, which is exceptional. They made their own band by multiplying themselves by a factor of 3 or 4 and pulling it off. I thought about your rule number 4, take instruments to home on the weekend to practice. They should call that the Allen Iverson rule.
Yeah. I like rule number 1. Be ready to work 5 minutes before getting to class, or 5 minutes after arriving at class, be ready to work. And that's important.
Don't waste time.
Another thing, Dr. Paul, West Virginia, they have an opening for 1,500 teachers. 1,500 teachers. That means 1,500 classes a day are being led by substitute teachers who don't know the subject. Anyway, Dr. Paul, great show. You're the man. Whatever you and our listeners think is meaningful, whatever you and our listeners think is beautiful, and whatever you and all our listeners, whatever makes you happy, may you have that today and forever. And I pray for peace, Dr. Paul.
I pray for peace too. And we appreciate all those for listening, liking, and sharing our message. Please give us a like on YouTube. It helps the algorithm. And click that bell notification so you'll get an alert every time we put out a new episode. And even in spite of what's going on in the world, when you can, think of something pleasant in your mind. Give yourself a break.
Be happy. Have fun. Thank you once again, Dr. Paul Thompson, my friend. Thank you for your love, your time, and that's something that we won't ever get back. I want to thank all the listeners, too. Thank you so much for doing the show, Dr. Paul. We're jamming.
Well, thank you, Mr. Drew, for inviting me on. Always good to talk to you. And ladies and gentlemen, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast or any of the podcasts. If you're looking at YouTube, they say smash the like button. Don't smash it. Just press it gently and use as a link to all your friends. You can also look at us on our website, wingmenshow.com, WINGMEN show, SHOW.com, altogether, wingmenshow.com. And we hope to see you in the future. Thanks again, Mr. Drew.
Oh, you're welcome. And we're still floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you badass jet pilots, rumble. May there be peace on earth, and goodwill towards all men and women.